Hi there. Oops. Sorry about that. Hi there. Welcome to Writing on Air, episode 7 or session 7. This episode is going to be a little bit different. Myself and my son were trying to find his birth certificate in the filing cabinet, and we found this stuff instead, which is all of my old writing from when I was a teenager and I don't know, up to maybe a little older than that, maybe in my early 20s. So I thought I'd go through it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open, I have a document for all my ideas. Oops. So I'm going to go through all this stuff and see if there's anything interesting. And if there is, I'm going to put it into my idea document. I don't know whether there will be anything interesting, but you know, it might be fun to just see. I've enabled the question and answers app on this, so you can either leave a comment if you want, or you can also just ask me a question in the question and answer thing. The question can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about this teenage stuff. It can be about anything I did during the week or a general writing question, whatever you like. So I'll start reading. So let's see. First folder. Seems to be some kind of outline. This stuff is like over 20 years old, so I don't remember any of it. So we'll see. With an empty hand, which for me would say a karate reference. Karate is it karate? One of the martial arts means with an empty hand. So that just sounds like I just translated it. I thought that was interesting fact or something. The instructor walked to the front of the class and turned to face his students. With well-trained precision, they all bowed as one. Well, there we go. Martial arts. Good evening, class, the instructor said, boomed. Welcome along. This evening, we'll begin with simple stretches. Patrick ran through the stretching routine in time with the instructor, although he knew them by rote himself. He stared at Eve in front of him as they did the splits. Okay. It seemed so effortless for her, but he still felt a burn from the full splits. Beside him, his brother Joseph grunted. The splits were his least favorite stretch. Finally, the instructor stood again. So far, it's reminding me, like I did Taekwondo when I was 19 for about a year. And I went to a couple of tournaments. Like I only got to yellow belt, so it's not like I was this amazing Taekwondo guy. But it's bringing back memories of that, so I'm wondering if I wrote this whilst I was doing Taekwondo. As I say, I don't remember this stuff, but let's see. Okay, class, he said, pair off into twos and we'll practice simple kicks and blocks. Blah, blah, blah. They're doing... Okay, they're still in class. Come on, Joey, I have to get home early. I have an assessment due tomorrow. So, are you nervous? I'm just wondering what the story is, basically. That's what I'm skipping ahead. Watch television whilst work. Patrick switched the computer on and loaded up the program that had poured so many hours into. Oh, he's a computer programmer. What a surprise. Yeah, test plan sitting beside his keyboard and tried to find the first error. Okay. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm a computer programmer by day, a writer by night. Okay, programming, and then he's sleeping, and then he's having breakfast. He's in college. I was also in college at 19, so this is seeming more and more like I wrote it when I was 19. Yeah, they're in class. It's not particularly interesting so far. All they've done is do taekwondo and then go to college. Uh, and they're talking about Joey, which is his brother. This is pretty much me writing my daily life in college doing taekwondo, which is not the most interesting story in the world. Talking still. Then he's at a taekwondo tournament. And at the taekwondo tournament. And then he's practicing. It's about weigh-ins. Like, it's pretty much a diary entry. It's about a fictional guy, but it's someone who's in college doing IT and doing taekwondo, which is exactly what I was doing at 19. It's about fighting some dude from the club, like in a tournament, not in a street fight. On the bus again. Yeah, pretty much the least interesting story ever told, where a guy goes to class in college and goes to taekwondo or maybe some other martial art, and that's pretty much it. He has conversations with his fellow taekwondo people and fellow college people. So, corrupting influence. I remember this one because this was inspired by a dream I had, which I then wrote as a short story. So, the day was blustery and cold as Peter and I walked down the beach. Too cold for swimming or much or anything else. I suppose we didn't know where we were going or what we were headed for. I already hate it because it's narrative summary. Okay. I'd like to think destiny led us to her, though. See, why tell it like it's... Anyway. She was sitting on a rock, kicking her heels, staring at the sea. She looked up at us as we walked to her, as if she'd been expecting us. So this was a dream I had, which is over 20 years ago. But if I remember correctly, I dreamed it was like kind of like a French movie from the 60s kind of thing, where my cousin and I met this girl, and we both fancied her, and she wanted to do a life of crime kind of thing, and we kind of went along with it, like I forget, robbing banks or something. And we got in all the trouble, and then at the end, like, she was scot-free because everyone thought we were the bad guys and she was innocent. But this is completely narrative summary. I'm actually like reading near the end of it, and as well, like, not particularly interesting. They robbed some food from a store instead of, I don't know, I remembered the dream as being bank robbery or something, like a Bonnie and Clyde kind of thing. That might be interesting, but robbing a store for some girls, not particularly interesting. Like, that's the thing with stories, I guess, that took me a while. Like, I even wrote a full novel, which was about a married couple had a son, and the man in the family was having dreams every night that he was in a post-apocalyptic world. But in the post-apocalyptic world, it was like a realistic. It wasn't like Mad Max. It was him trying to find food and trying to find a place to sleep that was safe. and hiding from other people and stuff like that, but nothing exciting happening. Like there wasn't a huge adventure. And that's the thing, you can have a book that's realistic, but if it's too realistic, it's going to be very boring. At least to me. There is like literature books that are just about someone doing something, I don't know, going on holidays or something. Um, but the level of skill in writing you have to make that interesting is pretty high. Like I read a Ray Bradbury short story that did it well, where he's describing, I'm not sure if it was his life or fictional life, but he was describing a really hot summer's day, and his older brother is out somewhere playing, and it's nighttime, and he and his mother go to try and find his older brother. His older brother is like 10 or something, not like 18. And eventually they are really worried that there's going to be something wrong, that the older brother is going to have gotten in some kind of trouble, and then they find the older brother and they go home. And Ray Bradbury made it work because he was such a great writer. Me personally, I don't think I would have made that interesting. I think it would have bored people to tears. So, you know, writing stories about someone robbing some food from a store or just going to taekwondo class is not particularly interesting. Okay, this next one I think is A Trail of Breadcrumbs, which is a thing I tried to write for ages as a teenager. Like I was planning it was going to be my first novel. It was, so that was a case of me constantly editing stuff that I'd already written. So I'd write the first chapter, and then I would read it and not be happy with it, so I'd go back and rewrite the first chapter, and then reread that and not be happy with it, and go back and reread that again and again and again, and just keep writing the same chapter or two over and over. And I forget, it was on Self-Publishing Podcast maybe or somewhere, but the thing about it, if you're writing a first draft, your job in the first draft is not to make it good, it's to finish it. That's all. You start at the start and you keep going until you finish it, and if it doesn't even make sense, that's fine. It wasn't your job at that stage. Your job is to be a first draft machine. You write the first draft and you keep writing words until you're finished writing however many words you needed to write. Yeah, anyway. I walked down the high street. I strolled slowly, savouring the cold night air. Then, as I crossed the mouth of an alley, a man stepped in alongside me. He dropped something into my pocket, and then walked briskly on to the next alley, which he disappeared down. Sentence structure isn't great, but like so far, it's a fairly interesting start. I hurried to the end of the street and got into the waiting car. I had hardly got in when the car sped off. So that's pretty good. Like already there's a mystery. Who's this dude walking down a high street in the middle of the night, and why has he got something in his pocket? Here's where it all goes wrong, I think. You may be wondering about all the secrecy. You see, I just finalized the final stages of the largest deal in the Western mob history. Okay. That's kind of kiddie writing. Although the deal itself would be simple enough, what surrounded it was not. And it seemed I had to oversee every part of it. The car stopped in front of the piano club. It really seems that this I must have written when I was like 12 or something, I guess. It's like a, what's his name, ex-cop. I got out and walked to the door. I then carefully knocked in sequence, adding my signature to the end. Well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Hadn't thought of, you know, and then you put your own signature at the end so they know exactly who's at the door. The door opened swiftly, and I hadn't thought of that recently. Door opened swiftly, and I walked into a scene of total disarray. Several groups of people were brawling, whilst in a corner I could see Jake swindling another customer gambling. I walked calmly through this melee to the back door, knocked, and went in. Don Henry was busy doing his nails and looked irritated as I came in. He'd been getting more and more restless lately. Perhaps he saw me as a threat to his position, but I doubted that. He was too secure for that. "Did you get the rings?" he asked me as I sat down. Sighing, I got up again and fished the small package out of my pocket. Out of it I poured 7 plain gold rings. Okay. Now these were not very important in themselves, but they contained vital information magnetically encoded in a small iron band inside. Don Henry picked them up each in turn and watched the light reflect off them. "Perfect craftsmanship," he said. "Even when I look for what I know is there, I can't see the differences." "Indeed," I replied somberly. "Perhaps we should leave," I said, checking my watch. "After all, we only have half an hour." "We have time enough," he said, and he poured a glass of wine. Okay, as a mobster drinking a glass of wine, it just seems a little off, but maybe that's just me. I would have expected him to be drinking whiskey or something. He offered me some, but I shook my head. He sipped his wine slowly, contemplating the window through the club. I mean, that's interesting. At least he's not a standard mobster. 2 familiar men were brawling over Don Henry's daughter again. Okay, that's a strange thing to do in the middle of Don Henry's club. She was a skinny girl who Roy had always thought had an odd streak to her. Something never quite fit. Don Henry finished his wine and wryly smiled. I would never let either of them marry her. Of course I'd kill them both first. She'll learn from this, though. Will she? I don't know. I would think the attention might be interesting to her. We strolled out into the club, the ring safely back in my pocket. Don Henry's daughter strode up to her father. "I'm coming too," she said. He merely nodded absent-mindedly. "If you want to, Faye." Okay. She moved to walk beside me, who held the door open for her as they reached it. I guess, and I held the door open for her as they reached it. The night air seemed colder than before, an almost bitter cold. He's only been there for like 2 minutes. I was glad to get in the warm limousine waiting. Jake and Razor were sitting in the front. The Razor was the one man I would not mess with. He was 6'11". Jesus Christ, 6'11". That's freaking massive. He'd be dominating basketball. 6'11". My God. And built like a block. That's a heck of a lot of calories you'd have to eat every day. 6'11" and built like a block. Far from being big and slow, though, he had the fastest reactions I'd ever seen. Don Henry had once asked him to get rid of a couple of flies in the back room, and he had caught them out of the air almost absent-mindedly. It's kind of a cliche to catch flies out of the air, but still. Jake was almost the complete opposite. He shied away from any physical activity, but he had a mind faster than any other. Razor drove quickly, taking back streets, and we soon arrived at the allocated warehouse. It looked absolutely abandoned, which was a good sign. Jake flicked a switch up front, and the warehouse doors slid open. Inside, the warehouse was well lit, and the windows were darkened to compensate. Jake closed the doors after the car had rolled in. We all clambered out of the car and moved to the bonnet. This is actually interesting. It's poorly written, but the ideas, I mean, I don't remember any of this because it's been so long. Like, it's keeping me interested, at least. Let's see, how many pages have we got? I'm not going to read the whole thing. There's 34 more pages. Obviously, it's just a copybook page thing. So 34 pages is, I don't know, it's not going to be very many, maybe a chapter's worth or something. But that's quite interesting. I'm actually going to put that on my table just here and finish reading it. Because if it does, part of the reason why I'm going through these is to see if there's anything, I think I said this already, see if there's anything interesting in them. If there's something interesting, then it might be worth going through and putting them on the computer. Oh. Okay. Let's see. I kind of half remember this as well. It's kind of like a tournament thing, like almost like a roller bowl, I think. But we'll read and see. I used to play Speedball. Speedball was based on rollerball. Speedball was a computer game where you were dudes on roller skates and you were allowed to punch each other, and it was like football goals, but it was all metal and stuff. It was a really good game. Yeah, let's see. Billy McNaughton hammered his fist into the side of his leg in restless anticipation. All of these were written in text documents, by the way, because I've got the text thing at the top. The clock opposite him indicated 5 seconds to go. Howie, the team enforcer, slapped him on the back as a means of encouragement. The clock finished its countdown. Billy raced forward into the arena, closely followed by his team. He was greeted by a roar of acknowledgement from the fans. He looked up and could a horde of personalized cameras jostling for position. Oh, could see. He looked up and could see a horde of personalized cameras jostling for permission. He steeled himself for the match ahead. I thought the match had begun since it was clock time down. The arena was a vast array of obstacles and traps. It varied from match to match in order to keep the players on their toes. Matt, the team trap designer, had warned them well about the collection of new designs he had put to ensnare the other team. Well, that's interesting. So, like, the teams each have a trap designer. Hello, I just got on. So what's going on? Living Tar said. What I'm doing is, Living Tar, I'm reading stories I wrote when I was a teenager. I found them all in the back of a filing cabinet, and I'm seeing firstly if they're bad or good, and also if they are. Oh, I was meant to press select. And there we go. Yeah, so I'm reading teenage stories and then seeing if they're any good, and then if they're any good, I'm putting them in one pile, and then if they're bad, I'm laughing at them and putting them in another pile. That's basically what I'm doing at the moment. Sorry, I was saying that. So each team has a trap designer, and then they put traps in the arena to try and ensnare the other team. That's quite interesting. After one use, each trap became redundant, as the other team could all see its workings. This kept Matt very busy. Okay. The rest of the team spread out around Billy as he scanned the arena for a good starting position. Howie headed straight for the other team, hoping he could take out an assassin or their leader before he was stopped. Okay, Howie's a suicidal dude, I guess. Billy smiled. Howie was always the optimist. All that would happen is he would knock heads with the other enforcer. One would... Okay, I misspelled there, but I meant defeat. Oh, because it's a text document, its carriage returns aren't working properly, so words are kind of cut off halfway through. One would be defeated, but the victorious player would quickly be assassinated. I'm guessing temporarily, otherwise Howie wouldn't last very long. Billy nodded to John, their second assassin, as he made his way after Howie. I thought Howie was an enforcer. Is there a difference between an assassin and an enforcer? Or is Billy an assassin? I'm not really explaining what an assassin is and what an enforcer is. Clever idea. Would you consider doing anything with the good stories? Yep. So for the good stories, I'm putting them on one pile. I have a huge backlog of stuff that I'm meant to be writing. Really, right now, I'm meant to be writing the Hard Vacuum 2, the sequel to Hard Vacuum 1. But the Trail of Breadcrumbs thing, at least I'm going to read it all the way through. I did that earlier. You might have missed. There's a story called The Trail of Breadcrumbs I read a few pages of. So I might do something with the stories. Obviously, they're written as when I was a teenager, so I couldn't write very well. So I'd have to rewrite them. Another question from Living Tar. Perhaps compiling or publishing them, maybe even continue and improve the writing. I've never finished anything when I was a teenager. So when I was trying to write books, they wouldn't be finished. And I don't remember what's actually meant to happen in them because I wrote them over 20 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, if I was going to publish them, if I was going to continue with them, I'd have to improve the writing and I'd have to come up with an ending. Because, let's see, I have a thing called struct.txt. I'm guessing that's what I meant as a outline. But it really doesn't tell me very much. Like Chapter 1, Arena. Chapter 2, Lost Data. Chapter 3, Nace Confesses. Chapter 4, Final Arena. Chapter 5, First Contact. Chapter 9, I've skipped a lot of chapters. Psychology 101. It's just like chapter headings. It's not really telling me what's happening. Let's see. So yeah, I would have to improve them dramatically in order to publish any of these. But if they have good ideas, I might take them as a story. Yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff I have to write. I've got a sequel to Shiny New Swindle I have to write. I have a sequel to my or a new book in my Bitter End series I have to write. I have to write Hard Vacuum 2. I have to finish Green Star. So, and then I've got a fantasy book I'm writing with Dave Higgins and a time travel book I'm writing with Dave Higgins. So that's 7 books in the next, I don't know, 8 months or something. So there's not a lot of time at the moment, but I figured since I found them, I can put them on the to-do list, and then maybe if I do have free time, I can write them. Thanks for your question. Let's see. Billy himself disappeared into the conglomeration of walls and nets lining the arena. Okay. As he made his way up the side of the arena, I haven't explained what the arena looks like really. So that would be kind of a thing to fill in. He glanced to where Harry was fighting the opposing enforcer. Neither assassin would take a shot yet for fear of hitting their own player. Oh, I see. So assassins have guns. The fans never forgave a player after a mistake like that. Yeah, so it's quite interesting, really. I don't know if you can see, I've written, it feels like maybe, I don't know, 40, 50 pages, maybe 30 or 40. So that's quite a bit. So I might have a read of that and see. That's got a lot of stuff to read. So I might see if there's anything of interest in it, or if it's just kind of random ideas. It might just be a complete rip-off of Rollerball. When I was writing that, I don't think I'd seen Rollerball. I was just basing it off of Speedball, but Speedball is a rip-off of Rollerball in a way. I mean, it's the sport. It's not the story. There's a possibility that I wrote something so close to the original Rollerball that it would kind of be pointless. Uh, now I have another book that it says Mouse on Mars, I think, on the cover. Mouse on Mars. I have no idea what this is. It was Wednesday, and one of the hottest days Brand had ever seen, when the stranger rode into town. He rode slowly, and with each step his horse looked as if it would collapse. Abe Johnston glanced at the man and smiled from his old rocking chair. He had seen many men cross the desert. The few that survived were reason enough for smiling. Okay. The stranger stopped his horse in front of the Brand Town saloon and half collapsed off it. He tied it up slowly and then walked into the saloon. Abe counted silently to himself. Wait, who's the main character, Abe or Brand? Oh, the town's called Brand. Brand is like a normal name here in Norway, so I thought it was a person. So Abe Johnston, the old man, is the main character, looks like. The saloon was deathly silent as the stranger walked in, or, you know, he's not, because we're now inside the saloon and he's not there. The only movement was from the barkeeper, who was rhythmically cleaning glasses. The stranger walked slowly up to the bar. "Whiskey?" he rasped, his lips cracking with the movement. The barkeeper flipped over one of the newly cleaned glasses and poured from a ready bottle. If you're wondering why my reading is so halting, my handwriting is appalling. Living Tar says, "Well, I've got to go, but it was wonderful watching your stream. It was great to see how deep the roots of your writing and love of writing are. Hope to read your next book soon, and have a good one. Toodles and thank you." Thank you, Living Tar. Thanks for watching. Let's see. Oh, if there's anyone else watching, say hello. There's no problem. You're not interrupting anything vital. Where was I? Poured from a ready bottle. The stranger downed this and turned to survey the saloon. All the men in the room were staring at him, unmoving. It set the stranger on edge. So much silence could mean only one thing. He turned back to the bar and took off his hat. Placing it slowly on the bar, he pointed to his glass, which the barkeeper refilled. Has he even put money down? Because, like, usually they'd... Yeah, anyway. All of the men in the room... No, sorry, I got through that already. The stranger heard the small click of a trigger being cocked, and he slowly turned, putting his hat back on. Why did he take his hat off, then? 4 men stood silently behind him, the guns in their heads? No, hands. "Don't even think of moving, stranger." And that's as much as I wrote. I have no idea why don't know what was happening there. Something Clint Eastwood like. The mountain. I wrote a lot of stuff on the mountain. Let's see. Books. So these are the books I was going to write. Trail of Breadcrumbs, Marathon Time, A Magician's Lot. Scripts, The Mountain. Trail of Breadcrumbs is the one I read earlier, which is just in front of me there. Marathon Time. Marathon Time was something that I got quite far in. It was a book I wrote about it was kind of back to the Future, where this guy, his girlfriend, and a professor, the professor invents a time travel machine, and they go back to Marathon, like the Battle of Marathon, where the name of the marathon race comes from. And yeah, I got quite far in that. Like, I even know, like, all kind of marathon research that I've now forgotten since then, but knew back then. Let's see, there might be some comments from people. Abraham Kim and 2 others said they're going to watch. So let's see. Abraham Kim, MP, and Dalton Fahey. Hey guys. And yeah, nothing else. So let's see. Go back to that actually. Now we got a lot of teenage poetry, which I don't think I'll read out. It's terrible. I actually I put a few of these on my website as kind of a jokey thing. So if you really wanted to, you could go to my website and search for poetry or poem or something and see it. It's appalling though. Like really, really bad. Yeah, just terrible, terrible poetry. Oh yeah, I remember that. So I did like a bank system where I think you got prize. Like I was like, I don't know, 14 or something, and my brothers and other people around the neighborhood were younger than me, and I'd had like toys and things like that I didn't want anymore. So I would set like challenges, like run around the block in a certain number of minutes or whatever, and then if they managed to do it, I think it was running around the block in 6 minutes or something, and if they managed to do it, then they got a certain amount of points, and if they got enough points, they could then get a teddy bear or whatever I was giving away. The quickening paladin. The observation satellite had hung in space for centuries, almost motionless. Throughout its time it had seen nothing. No one had come to service it, as it had been programmed to expect every decade. Unknown to both the control computer and the makers of the satellite, a major mistake in its destination program. Okay, that's not a correct sentence, but anyway. Instead of its two light year journey, it had performed a 21 light year one. 2 light years wouldn't get you anywhere, and 21 light years wouldn't get you very far either. Unless it's no wonder then that it had encountered none of the alien warships expected. The computer inside was beginning to get a suspicion they weren't coming. Then in the distance it spotted a flickering light. This was no stellar activity. It had been programmed against that. Slowly it tracked it as it approached. It had first spotted it at 20,000 kilometers, and it had quickly cut that distance to 500 in only 0.07 of a second. That was almost the speed of light. I don't think so. 500 kilometers in... oh, maybe. Suddenly, at 400 kilometers, the light disappeared, and the computer was left staring at a blank screen. Why was the computer looking at a screen? It decided to request servicing. Oh, of course, please forgive my lapse of thought there. Often happens. I get caught up in a thought and forget everything else. Well, anyway. Okay, I think we've jumped to a different story. Fastened together with a rusty old paperclip, but that didn't make sense that they were... There's nothing on the back of the page. It seems like... oh yeah. So this is something I obviously wrote for class. Yeah, her signature's not on it. So I don't know if you can see, there's like 30 pages, or they're written on both sides, I mean. So 15 pages, but like double-sided. And when I was from at the age of 13 to 16 probably, an English teacher called Greg Collins, who really encouraged my writing. He was always like really enthusiastic about it. And then when I was 16, in Ireland, you go from like in my day it was the intercert, but it's now the junior cert, up to like leaving cert, which is upper secondary education. And I then switched English teachers, and this is the first story I wrote for her class. And her comment is, "I know you put a lot of effort into this, but please not so much next time." So that was the end of that. Because I was a pretty shy kid, and my writing was kind of my expression. So for someone to say, "Yeah, no, don't give me this," well, for my English teacher to say, "No, don't give me this," was kind of took the wind out of my sails. Yeah, let's see, next one. Phil arrives, unlocks doors, turns lights on, puts on stereo, walks around. I've done like a logic thing. The Love Shack, garage barn, film starts as someone arrives. Oh, it looks like I'm trying to do a film. Yeah, that's like an outline that doesn't explain what it's meant to be. Kamikaze. The cold dew slowly soaked into Kildare's clothing as he lay completely still, his breath sending a slightest cloud of vapour onto the night air. He looked down at the complex before him, men running around in the courtyard, some dressed in white radiation suits, the rest in camouflage. Kildare moved to a crouch and crept slowly down the hill, keeping to the shadows cast by the sombre trees. Yeah, it's a shame you can't see this. It's like in dots. The dot matrix printer has printed this, which is fun. Stripped of leaves by autumn's passage, he aimed his silenced automatic at the two guards on the tower, but decided against it, as it would cause too much attention. The flow of the people in the courtyard had stopped, as penetration had said. Curfew was at 11. That's an interesting, like calling intelligence about an operation and penetration. Yeah, it's not really. It's an interesting, like, I guess I was a fairly innocent kid. Kildare moved to a belly crawl and cautiously made for the fence. He suddenly heard the boom of an explosion 20 meters to his right. Stone and dirt rained down on him. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's kind of a spy thing, I guess. There's a bit here I just read. So he's just cut the electric fence into the compound, and he sees a bug crawling through the hole that he's just cut, and then he puts his hand down and says, "You don't want to go in there," and turns the bug around to go the other way. That's quite fun. But yeah, not anything particularly original there, at least. A Day in the Life, college movie, follows people through the day, what each person thinks of others. Okay. Conflicting Interests. Conflicting Interests was a script I wrote. This must have been in my 20s, I think. Early 20s. So it's about a guy who's on a rugby team, wants to win the rugby tournament, whatever the rugby tournament is, and then at the same time, it's like he has women trouble, I think, or maybe his wife's cheating on him or something. Yeah, I might have a read of that because I'd be interested if it's got anything to it or if it's just BS. I'm running out of space here. Okay. Oh, another copy of Conflicting Interests. And there's no version number on the front of the script, so I have no idea what version it is. So I'm going to put this. Let's see. it's a different version because it ends on a different end. The last words in yeah, I don't know. Will I swear on this? The last words in the script are shitting, shitting, shitter. That's the last thing the hero says at the end of the story. Okay, I'm going to put that aside too because I want to read that. I want to see what the differences are. Pogue Malone. I wrote this when I was in an amateur theatre group. I was acting for a while because I read that. Oops. I read that if you want to write better stuff, you should act because. Sorry, for movies. Because for a while I wanted to be a scriptwriter. So what happened was that I think I read William Goldman's book. It may have been someone else's book, where they said that they'd tried to be a novelist and that there was no money in it. So they gave that up, writing novels after one or two novels, and then wrote scripts because there's lots of money in writing scripts. It's also easier. Writing a script's pretty easy compared to writing a novel. So I then went and tried to write scripts for a while and was moderately successful with. I didn't earn any money with it, but like my scripts then attracted some professional actors who wanted to be in my movies. And so part of the advice I was reading was that if you want to be a good scriptwriter, you should try and do some amateur acting, because then you learn what good lines are. Which I think I've gone back to novel writing, and the reason I went back to novel writing is making movies for me was painful, and I'm an atrocious director, like a really, really bad director. I don't know what to say to actors. I don't know how to make a good shot. I could have learned all of that, but the whole point was that I wanted to write, and this was meant to be a way to make money writing. And then the last film I did killed it for me, because I wrote this full feature script. It's meant to be a full feature movie. I got, I don't know, over 100 people involved at least. We had crew, we had professional actors. I put myself in the lead role, which was stupid. I really like acting, and I don't like directing. What would have been way better was to find someone who was willing to direct it, and then I could have acted in it, or I could have just been the scriptwriter. But then, I got to we finished the movie, and the sound was bad in certain scenes, so I was going to loop the sound. So I wanted to get some actors back to loop the sound, and most of the actors said, yeah, of course, no problem. And one actress said, yeah, I don't want to be an actor anymore, or an actress anymore, and I'm not giving you permission to show me in your movie. So, okay. Like a lawyer friend of mine said that her being in the movie and acting and saying the lines is in itself consent to be in the movie. But that kind of took the wind out of my sails a bit, and then I had a hard disk crash completely. So it took me months to edit this film, because as I said, I was a terrible director. Saying I'm a reasonable editor is not good. I'm slightly better than an editor than I am a director. I managed to get scenes to make sense as an editor, whereas a director, they were atrocious. So when the hard disk crashed and I lost all my edited footage, which had taken me 3 months, I then just gave up. And after that, I didn't want to direct anymore. And then it took me a little while to realize, well, actually, I should be just writing novels, because if you write a novel, you don't need anyone else involved. It's just you and the page. And you can make a spaceship explode if you want. You don't have to pay for the spaceship. So, Pogue Malone is a stage play, and it's set in a restaurant, and it's meant to be funny, and I have no idea if it is, but I'm going to put it on the read list. And here's another copy of Pogue Malone, but I don't know if it's earlier or later, because I haven't put up frickin' date on it. Yeah. If you're writing stuff and then archiving it, put a date on it if it's not on the computer. It seems longer. Like any of this stuff, the Pogue Malone thing could be a good short story. At the moment, what I do is I put short stories up on my website for free. So if people then check out my website, they can see some free short stories, and you know, it's like a bonus to my fans or readers, whatever. So yeah, it's something I like to do for my readers, is give them, if they've read my books, they then can read some short stories for free. So maybe some of these might be, some of the shorter stuff might be interesting as short stories. Night Shift. Okay. That's just random crap, really. Zombie hunters in Galway kidnap someone to fight for them. Zombie hunters in Galway would be intriguing. I'm actually going to write that on my zombie hunters in Galway, because it's just I don't know. I saw a movie called Grabbers maybe 6 months ago or something, and like just putting things in Ireland is quite interesting, just because there's so little that's set in Ireland. Zombie hunters. The only thing is that zombies, I think, are done to death at this stage. I'm sick of them, and I like zombie movies. So, but something in Galway might be interesting, because if you haven't been to Ireland or haven't been to Galway, it's kind of a country-ish place where, you know, people wave as they drive by each other, and everyone says hello to each other. Everyone's really nice. Everyone kind of knows each other. Like, I'm speaking here, like we used to go on holidays in Clifton in Galway when I was a teenager, with me and my friends from like 16, 17 up. And it's a great place to go on holiday because there's not that many people. They're all very friendly. There's not all that much to do, but when you're a teenager, all you do is go to the beach and drink beer. So that worked pretty well. So as a setting for a zombie movie, that would be interesting because everyone knows each other, everyone's friendly, and then you're going, oh no, Paddy's turned into a zombie. Should we shoot Paddy? Also, zombies in Ireland would be interesting because there's no guns. So zombies in the US, everyone is going around with automatic weapons and whatever. So it never seems that much of a threat, because especially now, since everyone thinks Obama's going to take the guns away and is therefore buying 10 guns each, what are you going to do? You just sit on top of the roof of your house and you shoot zombies as they go by, and enough people do that and there's no zombies anymore. Whereas in Ireland, there's no guns. So the only way people can kill the zombies is up close and personal. That'd be way more interesting. So if you're a movie producer, director, make a zombie movie in Ireland. Love is Blind. Looking for love. Woman is conservative. Man is divorced. Looking for love, companionship. Dating agency versus escort agency. Man is married. Woman is forward. Looking for money. Looking for... That's just BS. Don't know what that is. Anyway. Okay. Not sure what that is either. It's some kind of... Oh, this is Night Shift. Where's the night shift thing? Looks like a page went in between, that's why. So what they're doing is they're sharing a house, but they're doing the thing where they have shifts in a bed. I don't know if people have heard of that, where you only have a bed for like 12 hours or 8 hours or something, and then someone else sleeps in it the other 12 hours. It's where you really want to save rent. Hunting the dead. Taking out the van, thrashes around. Oh, this is the zombie thing, I think. The van pulls up. They've kidnapped 2 people. Yeah, that kind of wasn't as good as the idea, really. The idea of zombie hunting in Galway was more interesting than that summary thing that I'd written. The summary thing just kind of... So the interesting idea is having people who would not normally be fighting zombies go fight zombies. So you'd want like old people, middle-aged people, stuff like that in Galway, who like are happy and waving to each other and everything at the start of the story, and then by the end are like drenched in blood, like these pleasant people who, you know, go around and have tea at each other's houses and stuff. I've been through hell. That's an interesting story. Having like, this is like a few like professional kidnappers fighting zombies in Galway. That's not interesting at all, because it's just some like guys who are already action guys doing some action. That's no, that's not interesting. This is another script for Pogue Malone. I'm not sure what version that is either. As True as Life. It's another script. Something I didn't make. I read that. As True as Life, episode 2. Okay. I actually wrote 2 episodes of As True as Life. Can I read that too? Lydia's Web, I remember I wanted to make. So I made a short film called Maxwell's Web, I think. What was it called? No, just Webcam, sorry. But the character was called Maxwell. And I then obviously wanted to do a follow-up. I'm just going to check, it's blinking like someone's commenting or something. No, no one's commenting. Yeah, I'm not sure how interesting this is to watch, but you know. Nearly finished. Last folder. Soaking wet from the rain. Can I come in? Okay. Webcam part 2. Oh, Webcam 2 became Lydia's Web. Okay. So I don't need that since I already have it. Okay. It's nothing much. Another copy of Lydia's Web. The Mountain. So The Mountain was a thing I wrote over and over again. Trying to write a book. As you can probably tell from this video, I don't know how long we've been going. Maybe an hour or something. Half an hour at least. I wrote so much stuff trying to write books. It just kept trying and trying and trying. So I'm pretty happy to be writing books now. The Mountain. So The Mountain, sorry, was a thing I wrote where it was like a horror thing, where these teenagers are going up a mountain for a party, and then, oh, this is good. I actually wrote an outline. Sigma 4 on own. So they were going up for a party, and then like essentially the path started changing around them. So they thought they were going up the correct path, and then they got lost. So they backtracked, and when they backtracked, they got lost again. They couldn't find their way back to their car, and then they were like, okay, what's going on? And then slowly started getting split up. Here's some from Marathon Time. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even know I had that much. Like, the bits I had before from Marathon Time actually stopped when they got back to Marathon, or back to Greece at least. So that's actually stuff where they're in Marathon. So that's interesting. Let's see, anything in here? More bad poetry. Actual, like, character stuff. Sigma. Sigma 3, Sigma 4. That's... I have no idea what Sigma whatever is. But that character stuff's interesting. So, that's the mountain. Okay, so, to sum up, I have the mountain, all the stuff I wrote for that. I want to read that again. I'm not sure I can rescue that story just because horror's not really my thing. We've got some extra stuff from Marathon Time, which I didn't know I had. So I think I don't have that on the computer, so I might have to retype it all to get it in. But okay, I don't know if I can use like character recognition software to just scan it. That would be much easier. Lydia's Web, which might make a good short story. We'll see. As True as Life, 2 episodes, whatever that was going to be. Pogue Malone, the stage play. Got loads of versions of it. So that might be a short story too. And then I've got Conflicting Interests, which I wanted to reread. And The Quickening Paladin, which I wrote in school. I want to read this anyway, just out of interest to see. Trail of Breadcrumbs I wanted to read. And what was this? Oh yeah, the rollerball kind of thing. So that's a massive pile of stuff. Actually, it's about half the stuff I wrote as a teenager that at least I want to read and see what it's like. The scripts particularly I'm going to read first probably because I would like to get some short stories onto my website. The last one I uploaded was maybe in January, so 7 months, 6-7 months without a short story is a bit of a long time. And that's something I can do pretty quickly if I've already got a story written. Depending. If the scripts are appalling and it doesn't make sense, then obviously I can't use it. But if the story is kind of worked out, then there's no reason not to turn it into a like a novelty story, a short story, instead of being a script, because I'm not likely to make any movies or short films anytime soon. So I'm going to go and read all of that stuff. I'm not sure how interesting this has been, but hopefully it's been interesting for someone. If you want me to make more videos like this, give me a thumbs up. Because there's only a few people watching each video, maybe 12 maximum or whatever. So like this is kind of an extra thing I'm doing to see if people would like to learn more stuff that I'm doing. So if there's no thumbs up, or even if there's thumbs down, then I probably won't do ones like this anymore. I'll just do my writing on air, normal stuff where I just type and talk about what I'm writing. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.